The time has come to discuss the 70 books I read this year. Disclaimer, I'm sorry we're on the floor. These books are on the floor, so we're just gonna go with it. We're going to say the genre and how I felt about the book for each book. So let's go right ahead. The first book I read this year was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is like a YA romance. It was so cute. Loved this. Super cute. The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. This is a thriller. I'd say it's definitely fun. I wanted it to be better, but it's not a bad thriller by any means. It's a good time. We had a good time. The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. I thought that this was very similar to The Shining, so I was just kind of getting Shining vibes the whole time, and I think that this kind of had a disappointing ending, but it's a thriller. It's a good time. I would recommend it. Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is lovely. This is a romance. It's kind of marketed as a thriller, but it's not a thriller. It's a romance, and it's funny. I would say it's a rom-com. 5 out of 5 stars. Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is YA fantasy. Love these. So whimsical, so magical. These are fantastic. Then I read For Aunties and a Wedding by Jessie Q. Sutanto, and this is the sequel to Dial A for Aunties. This was a good time, but it was kind of disappointing for a sequel. The plot wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still equally as funny. Sapphire Blue and Emerald Green by Kirsten Gear. This is like YA time travel. There are movies about these books, so I would definitely recommend these to a teenager. The Daughter of a Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. This is like a YA pirate story, and honestly, I really liked this. I might have given it 5 stars. Regardless, I think it's a good time. Loathe to Love You by Allie Hazelwood. Kind of not great, actually. These are 3 new novellas, and this is like romance. I kind of really didn't love it at all. Like, they're cute, but they're like really similar, and I just think that Allie Hazelwood could do better. These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. Loved these. This is a YA Romeo and Juliet retelling. These are lovely. Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. Another romance book. This was really cute. I really enjoyed this one. This one might have been one of my favorite romances from this year. The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is a YA fantasy, and my feelings toward this are very similar to the first Cruel Prince book, where I'm kind of like, took me a while to get into the story, but then once you're in it, you're in it. And it's so good. The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is a thriller. It's actually kind of a bad thriller. I don't think I recommend this, actually. Killjoy by Holly Jackson. This is fun. This is a YA murder mystery kinda, and this is fun if you're into the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, but like, I wouldn't read it randomly. It's just a novella. Celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Titanic expedition by Bill Willard. This is fantastic. It's about the expedition of retrieving this piece of the Titanic from the bottom of the ocean, and if you're into Titanic stuff, absolutely you should read this book. The Secret Diamond Sisters by Michelle Maddow. This is YA, and it's fun. I gave it 3 stars, but it's fun. It takes place in Las Vegas. 12 Nights at Rotterhouse by J.W. Ocker. I loved this. They'll kind of market this as like horror. I would say it's more paranormal. This was a good time. Loved this book. I kind of want to read it again. Speaking of a book I would read again, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is an amazing thriller. 5 stars. I love this book. The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This is a good time, but it's not as good as The House Across the Lake. A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. Again, if you're into the Titanic, read this. I loved it. I loved it. This was one of my favorite books this year. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Again, Riley Sager could do better. I mean, it's good. Bunny by Mona Awad. Kind of like a psychological thriller. This is fantastic. I loved this. I highly recommend this one. Then I read Billy Summers by Stephen King. This is my most favorite book I read in 2023. This is incredible. If you take anything from this video, read Billy Summers. I loved it. I don't want to market it as a thriller, but it's not horror, so don't worry. The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. High fantasy, romantasy, vampire story? Is that a genre? I think this is such a good time. You should read this. If you're into romantasy and vampires, just do it. It is such a good time. Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welch. This is kind of forgettable. I mean, it's good if you're like trying to get over a breakup, I guess, but it's like YA romance, but it's really not romance. So, Restore Me by Tahira Mafi. This is the 4th book in the Shatter Me series. It was kind of intriguing, but I don't think I'm going to continue the series, so I don't know how I feel about this. The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. This is a thriller, and it's a gosh darn good one. I recommend this thriller. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is very interesting. This is like Shakespearean-esque dark academia theater kid vibes. I had a good time with this, but I didn't think it lived up to the hype that everyone made it out to be. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This was kind of disturbing. It's a thriller. I don't know if I would recommend it. Kind of leaves you icky feeling. The Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. This is romance. This started out great, but it could have been better. Like the first half of this, lovely. The second half, I was kind of like, nah. Deep Sea Explorer, Robert Ballard by Rick Archibald. Another Titanic book, because I'm a Titanic nerd. Dead Wake by Eric Larson. Now, you don't have to be a Titanic or a ship nerd to be into this. This is a nonfiction book on the sinking of the Lusitania. I highly recommend this. If you're into history, if you're into ships, oh yeah, this is a good one. The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This is an old collection of short stories. I really like The Yellow Wallpaper. The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Another thriller. This one's one of his better ones. I don't know what's missing in this book that made me kind of like about it, because it's actually really fantastic. I don't know, maybe it just doesn't compare to Lock Every Door or The House Across the Lake. Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. Horror dystopian. This is kind of about cannibalism, just warning you a little bit, but I think this is so great. This will make your skin crawl in the best way. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This is so cute. I think it's better than Love on the Brain. I'm a fan of her STEMinist novels. I just think they're so cute. So yeah, romance, good time. This Silver Scream by Roy Merkin. This is an Ice Nine Kills book. Ice Nine Kills is one of my favorite bands. So, I mean, yeah, I'd promote this if you're like into horror and music. Oh yeah, read this. It's a good combo. Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. No. This is a thriller and it's kind of bad. It's kind of really bad. I didn't like it. I only remember the bad parts of it. No. The Dinner List by Rebecca Searle. This is fun. It has a really fun premise. I think it's kind of mid. I do like to ask people, though, if you could have any 5 people at your dinner table, who would it be? And that's kind of the plot of this book. It's really fun to have Audrey Hepburn as a character. I definitely think that it could have been better. I wasn't really into the love story. 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This is a thriller. This is a YA thriller. The characters aren't very memorable, but it still lives up to like a Holly Jackson book where you're like, oh my gosh, you're hooked. I kind of wish I could have read it in 24 hours, but again, the characters, like, they're just kind of okay. That doesn't mean the plot isn't good. This is still a great book. The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. This is the sequel to The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I really liked this as a sequel. It took me a while to get into, but I just ended up loving the world and loving the characters, so this is a good one. Hide by Kirsten White. I was expecting a lot from this. It's a horror book, and I just think that it could have been better. Like, it was still fun. It could have been better. The Whisper Man by Alex North. This is another horror-ish kind of novel. I think it's more like a horror murder mystery. I don't know. This was fun. I do recommend it. I gave it 4 stars, but when I walk into a book like this, I was like expecting it to be scary, and it didn't scare me. Road of Bones by Christopher Golden. Oh, absolutely. This book chilled me to the bone. It's a horror book. Out of all the spooky books, this is a good spooky book. Read this. The third book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. This is sad, but it was kind of disappointing. I mean, it was still good. It was still a good conclusion, but it was like a 4-star conclusion instead of a 5-star conclusion. Everyone Here Is Lying by Shari LaPena. This is a fun thriller. If you're into the like hunt for the missing child kind of plot line, this is good. The book, the title is like serious. Everyone is lying in the book. So I also read The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. Loved this. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. That one's a very science-y-esque autobiography. I read The Handmaid's Tale. Margaret Atwood, is that the author? I hate to say it, but no. The Handmaid's Tale was kind of really boring and disappointing. Okay, we have the Twilight series. We have the whole Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn by Stephanie Meyer. 5 out of 5 stars. This was the first time I read this series, so this was a really great time. I'm not a Twilight hater anymore. I don't know how you could be. This is so much fun. Go read the Twilight series if you haven't. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then I finally did it. Such a good experience. I don't regret that. The Last Flight by Julie Clark. This is what I want. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Bluebeard's Castle by Anna Biller. This is like a gothic romance horror book, kind of. This is really fun. I still think about it, so it got 4 stars. It's a good time. Flight by Lynn Steger Strong. I'm sorry, it's just not for me. This is like a literary fiction family tale. It just didn't work for me. I'm sorry. 3 Assassins by Kotaro Isaka. This is fun. This is a really fun time. This is by the same guy who wrote Bullet Train. So, action adventure spy movie, heck yeah, read this book. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is so impressive for this being this girl's first novel. This is a YA fantasy book and I loved it. This is so good. Loved it. Love, love, love. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to include these. We have my pharmacology textbook. Actually, I loved this book. This was incredible. I read all the key concepts, all the safety alerts. This was so helpful for getting a good grade in pharmacology. Love pharmacology. The Nursing Diagnosis Handbook. No, this was stupid. Foundations of Nursing. Also stupid. Essentials of Pathophysiology. I did really like this, actually. This was helpful. Physical Examination and Health Assessment. Stupid. Okay, I also read My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. No. Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. This was a really fun little duology. Like, this is a good time. Go read it if you like pirates. Okay, and lastly, I also read Futility or The Wreck of the Titan. I think that it's a great book. Again, if you're into Titanic history and ship stuff, go read it. This was all the great books I read this year. What a good time. I actually did so good this year when it comes to like reading a lot, so I'm proud of myself. This was a good job. Good job, Presley. Thanks guys for watching.